Hello, my name is Charlotte, and this is my presentation for the RSK3 workshop assignments regarding business decision making. Here, an overview is presented regarding the content of this presentation. Effective decision making is an important life and work skill according to Liu. Driver, Brousseau, and Hunsaker defines decision making styles as the amount of information gathered and the number of alternatives a decision maker considers. Scott and Bruce stated there are 5 decision-making styles, namely rational, intuitive, dependent, avoidant, and spontaneous. These have been evaluated throughout this research. Research regarding gender difference among decision-making styles is highly inconsistent. Whereas some studies have found none or just a few differences, others identified major differences. Solo and Alwood have found that male investigators show higher values of rational decision-making styles and female investigator higher values on the dependent decision-making style. Liu has not found any gender difference on any of the decision-making styles in a sample of management undergraduates. He argues that this may be caused due to the homogeneous group of students or due to the trend of disappearing gender differences. Study of age differences affecting decision-making includes a high degree of inconsistency as well. This can be due to several reasons, such as educational level of the participants in the study. Liu found that one tends to rely less on intuitive and avoidant styles the older and more experienced one has. Moreover, research has shown that there is no significant relation between age and dependence. Delaney et al. States that the research had limited findings due to difficulty generalizing the findings, biased answers, and that the study did not include age changes or background differences. Parker et al. Revealed positive correlations between dependent, avoidant, and spontaneous decision-making styles. Some decision-making styles are more related to psychological stress than others. Avoidant decision-making styles are positively related to negative stress, according to Salo and Allwood. Salo and Allwood also report 6 sources of stress, as shown in this slide. In this slide, the 3 research questions considered in this research are stated. Here, the choices regarding the methodology related to Saunders' research onion are stated. Due to time constraints, these will not be further elaborated. For the qualitative research, 2 interviews were conducted. Interviewee 1 is female and 22 years old, and interviewee 2 is male and 24 years old. Both content-related areas are similar with decision-making process and styles and negative influences. Locations are the same, and preparations in terms of booking rooms that are silent were done. Both interviews were semi-structured, where non-probability sampling was used, namely quota sampling. The analysis was done through Atlas TI, where the data was transcribed, summarized, categorized, coded, and analyzed. To answer elements of the research question, quantitative research was conducted with the use of surveys. The population was 3rd and 4th year students at the Hansa University of Applied Sciences, namely last year students. In total, 142 responses were collected, and the survey tool used was SurveyMonkey. The method was internal consistency method, and the sampling method was cluster random sampling. The scale type used is the Likert scale, and the method of analysis was done through SPSS. The assessment method was the reliability with a chi-square. In terms of reliability and validity, this aspect was considered for both interviews and for the surveys. In terms of the interviews, the interviewees can be considered biased as different viewpoints and perceptions were given. However, triangulation was here applied in order to ensure the reliability and validity. In order to test the reliability of the collective responses for the survey, a reliability analysis was conducted. The results show that a total of 142 responses were collected and that all of them are valid. The alpha coefficient is 0.797, showing a high reliability level of the scale. Generally, an alpha of 0.7 or higher is accepted as sufficiently reliable. Now, having a look at the findings, the researcher covered all 3 research questions via qualitative research. As already mentioned, 2 interviews were conducted. The candidates were purposely selected to compare potential gender differences regarding these topics. Statements from both interviewees were labeled and categorized in Atlas TI by coding them first and then visualizing them using a network. The codes that were used are experience, lack of experience, afraid, anxious, confidence, high expectations, nervous, rational, reluctant, responsibility, routine, rushing, scared, spontaneous, stress, sufficient information, sufficient time, and time pressure. The networks created are positively and negatively worded and summarize the main factors as mentioned by the interviewees, namely stress, high expectations of the intern supervisor, time pressure, and rushing. Moreover, quotation links are included. The network shown in this slide is a result from the coding and visualizes the factors which negatively impact the decision-making process in the interviewee's internship company. Vice versa, the interviewees indicated factors that help them make better decisions. These are represented in this network. Lacking these factors will thus negatively impact the decision-making process of the interviewees. In order to conduct statistical analysis on the collected data, the information was imported into SPSS. As already mentioned, a reliability analysis was conducted. The results show that all responses were valid as the alpha coefficient was 0.797. Hypothesis testing is used to see if there is a correlation between two items. In this case, hypothesis testing can be used to test two of the research questions. As seen on the slide, the two hypotheses is mentioned. This type of hypothesis testing was done with each of the decision-making styles to see if a correlation exists. Seeing as each of the dimensions has multiple questions associated with it, the chi-square test was conducted on each one of them. Overall, no relations were found between gender and decision-making styles. As you can see in the slides, two examples are presented, namely the relation between gender and rational decision-making style and the relation between experience and the intuitive decision-making styles. Concluding the analysis, at 95% confidence level, there is no significant relation between gender and rational decision-making, as the chi-square is 0.541. The analysis concluded that the null hypothesis is confirmed for all the decision-making styles, thus there is no relation between gender and decision-making style. Same theory as for gender is applied to experience. For the relation between experience and the intuitive decision-making style, at a 95% confidence level, there is no significant relations between the business experience and intuitive decision-making style, as the chi-square is 0.397. The analysis concluded that the null hypothesis is confirmed for all the decision-making styles related to experience. Thus, there is no relation between experience and decision-making styles. Now, coming to the conclusion, the conducted research was based on three research questions. Quantitative research was carried out by means of a survey and qualitative by interviews. Quantitative data analysis suggests that neither gender nor business experience influences business students' decision-making styles significantly. With regards to gender differences, previous literature was already inconsistent. While some studies found significant differences, others found few or none. Regarding experience, findings from Malou could not be validated. Given the limited sample, findings are likely not generalizable. As for interviews, using the Atlas TI tool, several factors were discovered that may have a negative influence on decision-making within internship companies. The main factors were stress, high expectations of intern supervisor, time pressure, and rushing. In parts, this fits previous research findings that also suggested stress and time pressure as influences on decision-making. These factors are associated with avoidant and dependent decision-making styles, according to Salo and Alwood. Further, no interview suggested that in fact lesser experience leads to dependent decision-making. Moreover, the size and the homogeneous nature of the sample contribute to that the result may not reflect the population accurately. Also, the sample is homogeneous in that it is limited to the Hanse University of Applied Science students. Thus, findings may be less applicable to students from other universities. Overall, inconsistency can be found throughout this research. Last but not least, the reference list is presented. Thank you so much for your attention.